Man, the mountains called me back after all these years, you know? Couldn't resist. So, there I was, back at it again, after a decade, and this time I was flying solo. I hit the road way late, and it was getting dark fast, so I just pulled off onto some back road in the national forest. No campsite, just me and the truck. So it's getting dark, right? And I'm in the back of the truck, wrestling with the sleeping bag and this air mattress that's just not cooperating when it hits me silence. Not the peaceful kind, but that eerie, something ain't right kind of quiet. It's weird because usually the woods are never really silent, but this time, not even a peep. No birds or anything. Then, out of nowhere, this Stellar's jay just goes off, sounding the alarm. Those birds, they're like the forest's watchmen, always calling out when trouble's nearby. I look up, and no kidding, I see something moving between the trees. Just a glimpse of its back, but it's moving like a shadow, totally silent. And I think, oh, a deer, but then it hits me no noise. That's no deer. That's something much sneakier. A predator. I finally figure it's gotta be a mountain lion by the color and the sneakiness. And in my head, I'm thinking it'll cross the creek by me, and I'll get a better look. But it never does. It's like it vanished, but I can feel it out there, watching. Now, I'm freaking out a bit, right? I'm stuffing the sleeping bag into the back of the truck as fast as I can, all the while feeling eyes on me. I slam the truck's tailgate shut super loudly, hoping to scare it off. And I hear it, this mountain lion takes off, but only for a sec. It stops like it wants me to know it's still the boss around here. I hopped into the truck, locked the doors, and didn't sleep a wink. All night, it felt like that lion was out there, just waiting. I've had some crazy times in the woods since then, sure. Bears, wolves, you name it. But nothing, and I mean nothing, beats the chill of knowing a mountain lion's out there, watching you, stalking you, and you can't see it. Still gives me the creeps. But you bet I keep camping alone, too. It's like that scare's a part of the thrill now, you know? All right, picture this. I was way up in Denali, right? Big, wild, and about as untamed as it gets. So there's this cabin there for fishermen to crash in during the season. It's nothing fancy, just a room with walls sturdy enough to make you feel like you're not just another snack for the wildlife. We flip through the logbook, and wouldn't you know it, someone scribbled down that a grizzly rumbled through camp just 2 days back. Now, if you've seen that movie The Revenant, you know why the idea of a grizzly nearby doesn't exactly lead to sweet dreams. And man, I've seen these beasts in the wild, massive, hulking things with a bad case of the grumps. From a distance, it's all majestic and National Geographic-like. But up close, no, thank you. Nighttime in bear country is a different kind of silence. Every snap of a twig, and you're there, wondering if your food's put up right, or if that dab of deodorant you put on is like ringing the dinner bell. You're lying there, trying not to think about a bear nudging into your tent, big as a boulder, and sniffing for a snack. Sure, they're supposed to bolt if there's no cubs around, but let me tell you, feeling the side of your tent cave in as something with teeth investigates, that's not on my list of top 10 experiences. And it's not just the bears, you know. There's a vibe in those woods, a kind of story that seems to stick to the trees. I'm not one for ghost tales or anything, but there have been times sitting by the fire or hiking a trail when suddenly everything's just off. The air's heavy, and you feel like you're not alone. It's like the world's gotten too big, too quiet, and whatever's out there in the dark is big and bad and has its eyes on you. The scare hits you like a punch to the gut, this raw, primal thing. You know, deep down, if whatever's out there wanted to, it could rip you apart and never look back. So you make for your spot, tent, cabin, truck, anywhere solid, praying you don't find out what's trailing you. I've never seen whatever gives off that feeling, and I count my blessings for that. But I've talked to enough hardened, outdoorsy types who felt the same thing, and they'll tell you it's real. Whatever's out there, it's the stuff of old, dark fairy tales, the kind that don't have happy endings. So when someone asks me where those old, scary stories come from, the ones that send shivers up your spine, I just nod towards the wild woods and say, spend a night out there. You'll figure it out. I decided to camp in the Boundary Waters in northern Minnesota. You know, for a one-man camping hiking trip for 3 nights. If you don't know the Boundary Waters, it is true wilderness. Every one of the campsites in the Boundary Waters is only accessible by canoe. You can't simply walk up to another campsite. Every night, I took a picture of the gorgeous sunset. Then, as I was about to go to bed, I tied the camera to a cord hanging down from the top of my tent to avoid water damage overnight. I had a great time, and when I get back home, I bring the film. Yes, it was before digital was popular, like the late 90s, to a place where they know me well. When I go back to pick up the developed pictures, the guy behind the counter says, "Wow, it sure looks like you guys had a great trip, and the weather seems to have cooperated." I looked at him funny, thinking he may have confused my pictures with someone else's, because as I said, I was camping alone. So, before I even get home, as soon as I get back in my car, I pull out the developed pics. First one is a beautiful sunset as expected. Then the next is a picture of me sleeping in my tent. Then some pictures on my exploration the first day, followed by a picture of another beautiful sunset. Then a picture of me sleeping in my tent. Then more pictures from the canoe, followed by another beautiful sunset. The last is a picture of me sleeping in my tent. Here's the scary part. The camera didn't go off while hanging above me. Each of the pictures taken of me, sleeping in the tent, were taken from outside the tent, looking in through the open door. I was probably 9 or 10 and camping up in northern Maine with my family, my mom, dad, and twin sister. We got back from a hike and everyone was relaxing. I take my Game Boy out to play, and my mom makes a comment about how I won't get to see all the natural surroundings, staring at a screen. She starts doing a crossword. My dad is reading a book, and my sister is scrolling through some fashion magazine. Well, I look up after a while and a full-size buck moose is slowly strolling through our campsite. Now, to those who don't know, moose kill more people than bears. They are big and mean, and if you're smart, you don't mess with them. I whisper, "Moose," and everyone sees it and freezes. Anyway, he didn't bother us. Chilled out for maybe 10 minutes, ate some potato chips off the table, and went back to being a moose. A friend and I were camping at Mount Mitchell State Park, late in the fall, around the time it gets chilly. At the entrance of the trail was a sign that said to watch out for bobcats. We hiked a few miles into our campsite and tried to start a fire, but to no avail. It had rained the night before, and all the wood detritus was damp. At dusk, we strung up our hammocks and decided to call it a night. It was freezing at this point. I already had on multiple layers in my jacket, so I brought out the space blanket. An hour or so after tossing and turning, my friend says from a distance, "Are you cold?" I replied, freezing my ass off. We tried to spoon and use our body heat to warm up, but that wasn't working either. So, we decided to hike back to my car in the middle of the night with only dim headlamps guiding our way in the darkness. Not long on our journey back in the distance, do we see a pair of glowing eyes low to the ground, about a foot off the trail to the left. Too close to pass by unnoticed, we were deciding what to do. We decided to charge at it, blowing our bear whistles and screaming at the top of our lungs, hoping to scare it off. The creature was not deterred and stood its ground. As we got closer, we realized it was a little dog minding its own business outside their owner's tent. The experience was an adrenaline rush from our perspective, and probably a frightening one from theirs as well, being rudely woken up in the middle of the night like that by 2 crazy passers-by. I hope you enjoyed these stories on my channel and would like to see more. Please like, subscribe, and comment below. I also encourage you to send in your well-written true stories to the email above. I will continue to keep bringing you the very best true story videos. Thank you.